Well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs, they know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich, and not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally, cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Saying, who the fuck do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country. Those policies were put in place because you had moronic politicians that listened to the words of a megalomaniac who was more interested in having met a Kardashian than the suffering of the American people. There is no defense of what you did. You may have had a 50-plus year legacy of public service, but it ends in total and complete disgrace. So let me ask you an opportunity to answer one question. Will you apologize, just apologize, to the people who you harmed through your actions? Will you say, do you have the dignity to just say you're sorry?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
It's no secret why you have to hire the biggest dirtbag attorney on the planet, because of what you did. I hope you're paying him well. And I hope that one way or the other, somewhere, sometime, you answer for your crimes.
There were others who had the courage to say, bump that. And one of those people at the forefront was Kyrie Irving. I bring his name up because I had my issues with him from a leadership standpoint, never as a player, because he's sensational. But with him, in terms of leadership, and I didn't look at it as being courageous. I looked at it as being selfish. And I watched Dr. Fauci on Capitol Hill yesterday. And the person I thought about most was Kyrie Irving because of the heat that he was taking. And how folks were piling on because that was just the latest transgression in their eyes that he was committing and subjecting the public to. He refused the vaccine. New York City's mandate made him ineligible for home games. And he linked his stance to people losing jobs over vaccine mandates. In my opinion, particularly hindsight-wise, it didn't make him stubborn or selfish. It made him brave for his willingness to stand up and say, nah, I'm not doing that.
Shalom. Kol halayim la Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakat Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, to the Akim doing the work in truth and sincerity, as well as a few Akwat that listen and learn. This is Brother Shawar with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. A quick lesson responding to these clips and this news of, this news that, Dr. Fauci pretty much being exposed for giving false information dealing with the C19, right? The juice, the jab. When this was about 6 years ago, this was a crazy. It seemed to be a crazy time for, people, the whole world. Everybody was demonized for questioning, the juice, questioning, what is it doing? All the deaths and. And if you if you didn't want to take it, as the prophets and the leaders of the Great Millstone, the apostles and elders told us not to, in the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, because it's not a regular shot. This is not a regular, VAX. Through the spirit, we could tell something was up. And if you didn't want to take it, people lost their jobs. People were basically ostracized from society to an extent. And I put that clip of Stephen A. Smith. We know he's a sellout, but apologizing to Kyrie Irving, for standing up in that time. And although Kyrie is in the world, the fact that he stood up, it was still a righteous move, still a righteous act. And, he was demonized for it. He took the hit for it. And it showed us who we're working with. It showed us that we have enemies. It showed us that we're in captivity, that we're dealing with the devil that the Bible speaks of. We're dealing with Edomites, right? Not so-called white people, Edomites. This is who's ruling the world today, and this is who's in power. And they have a stronghold over, not as much as they used to. It's breaking now because the Lord is revealing them. But they have a stronghold over the media, the minds of the people, right? And just like that, they changed the world in one day. But it's now coming out, as it has been over the last 6 years, that this whole thing was a setup. It's messing with your DNA. It wasn't a regular shot. And, it was pretty much, we believe in the spirit. This was the first phase of, them getting into setting up the MOTB, to altering someone's DNA. And this is not medical information, but this is what's happening, right? So I just want to get a few scriptures, man. It's a few basic scriptures, because the men of the Lord, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, told and warned the people. Regular people told you as well. People who just did a little research, and there was doctors and nurses that were coming out with it. But the people in Babylon and the West, and really the whole world too, but especially the West, their minds are so weak and docile because of all the propaganda and the wine, meaning philosophies that they've been drinking from Esau, Edom, and then the great horror, which is America. All over these years, they can't think for themselves. They just trust in their enemy, especially these Israelites, right? So they whatever they say goes, and they just follow it. And whether it's leading to them destruction or not, they don't, they follow it. And a lot of people are waking up now, because this is the time where the Lord is revealing them. But still, the masses of the people, they didn't want to believe it, right? But clearly he's exposed, because he doesn't want to answer none of these questions. I think he pleaded the fifth like 111 times or something like that. Something I saw. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate, but it was hella times he did. He's not answering these questions because he knows, he should be getting the death penalty, to be honest. Right? But this is Esau, Edom. This is what happens when you're in power and rulership. You can get away with murder. Right? So let's get this. This is Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach 12 and 10. It reads, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness." And that's plain and simple, man. We have enemies as Israelites. You so-called Negros, Latinos, and Native Americans, you are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of according to prophecy, all right, lineage, characteristics. And we have enemies. Our enemies are really these other nations, but mainly these Edomites, these so-called white people, which are who are red, right? And the leaders of this world, the powers of this world, Amalek, and the elites that rule this world. Amalek being your, mainly your the small hats, right? And the elites that rule this world, who are also small hats, right? They're the ones pushing and doing all these things behind the scenes, and they're trying to, ultimately break down this system to come and create a new system, do with the MOTB, Revelation 13 and 16. And this is a part of it. This is all a part of it. That was a whole part of pretty much, again, the first phase of it. And something else is coming. We just don't know exactly when, right? So the Lord, again, warned the people, warned the Israelites through his prophets, as he always does, to not take that thing. And those who did take it, that wasn't the MOTB itself, so the Lord could have mercy on you, but more than likely, you're going to end up taking the MOTB when it comes, because it was a trial run, it was a practice, it was the wicked, again, their first phase, but it was also the Lord testing, those who say they believe, and what they would do in a situation like that. And a lot of these other Israelite groups folded and joined signs with the devil and told them it was okay to take, the jab, and try to justify it when it's a much bigger picture. And there's so many levels it was wrong. If you have common sense, if you have any, spiritual eyesight, spiritual foresight, spiritual, way of thinking, way of seeing things through the lens of the Lord, through the lens of the Spirit, you would see that something was off about that. And here we are, right? Here we are. And matter of fact, let me get this scripture again, because I just want a couple scriptures, sorry. I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm trying to condense it. So this is Daniel 12:4. It reads, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." So there's going to be a time where these warnings aren't going out anymore. There's going to be a time where you're going to have to go off of the wisdom and the faith and the spirit that you've built through the Lord, in yourself, through doing the work, through seeking the Lord, through reading, through doing lessons and praying, a lot of prayer, and the Lord ultimately dealing with you in these times with the Lord, because the prophets aren't going to be out there forever. These videos aren't going to be up here forever, right? So there's going to be a time where you're not going to be able to just have access to all these videos and people telling you don't do this, don't do that. It's going to be through the Spirit and your faith that's getting you through, right? Isaiah 33:6, "Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times." And that building up of faith starts now, right? It don't start in the moment. The Lord can do anything with it, but it's going to start now, right? For majority of us, because there will be, last hour Israelites that do wake up, but the majority is now, right? And back to that Kyrie situation where, basically, Jake is so foolish that it showed, because when it happened, there was two sides, and the one side was smaller than the other. The one side was praising Kyrie for his quote unquote bravery and standing up, basically just not doing what the devil said. Right, and the other side of it was him getting demonized like crazy for not doing it, right? He couldn't go to home games. They did so much with him. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but the point is he was demonized in the media. Oh yeah, looked at it as like a problem. Pretty much made it look like he's a bad teammate. Demonized his character and his integrity, and trying to say he's putting people in danger because of his food, like all this stuff they were saying about everybody. But this was blasted all over the media. This was, and now you see what we're dealing with. You see, again, time and time again, the devil will show his horns. Jake is still going to be ignorant, still going to, not take heed to these signs and repent. But this is what we're dealing with, right? Never trust thine enemy, because look, they have an agenda against us at the end of the day. And they have a great hatred for us. They know who we are. They're starting with these elites, and it's a spiritual thing as well. But all this stuff is aimed to tear us down. And yes, we're in captivity, so there's certain things we gotta, listen to and do to get by. But ultimately, these people's mindset is to do anything to bring forth our destruction as a people, as Israelites. Right? So let's get this last one in 2 Thessalonians, and we'll close it. So this is 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3, and it reads, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition." And that is exactly what is happening. These JOOs, small hats, are being revealed for not being the people and being the hammer and the wickedness of the earth, right? And on a smaller level, you have Dr. Fauci being exposed for, pretty much deceiving the whole world and lying about the jab, and then resulting in the pretty much the sickness and death of millions of people, because that jab was messed up. It messed up people's DNA, and it took a lot of people out. Verse 4, "Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." They have a God complex. This is basically the whole plan is revolving around that, right? Verse 5, "Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, and now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time." And we're in these last days where the devil is being revealed, and the Israelites are waking up. Verse 7, "For the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." And the point is made, right? These guys aren't going to win at the end of the day, but this is just a prime example of never trust thine enemy. A prime example. There's been many examples, but this is, if Jake don't see this and it'll spark something in Jake now, and it'll make them repent and understand that, the prophets, basically the men of great millstone, starting with the elders and apostles, and those that teach a likewise doctrine are right. The Lord just really isn't dealing with you, and you're just simply a fool. Or, it's just that simple. These devils are being caught red-handed. They're being revealed in every way. So I just wanted to bring that out through the Spirit, man. Lord willing, this is edifying, and you see what we're dealing with, right? So stay prayed up, stay locked in. We're almost at that time, right? We're in these last days, so I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakodash, Shalom, Kwan Yasharala, and the Bible Ball.